And welcome back to America Can We Talk. We have just a great guest joining us in this segment, and probably everyone listening has heard of her. It's Catherine Engelbrecht. She is the founder of True the Vote. Hi, Catherine.
Hey, Debbie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, so glad you could come on. I'm just so grateful we worked this out. I think we had you scheduled one time not too long ago, and there was flooding in Houston, or Houston area where you live, and we rescheduled, but just so glad you could come on. And, you know, we've been talking this whole show, really about, up until now, about what happened in Dallas last week. And I just thought it was important to dedicate a bunch of time to talk about both what happened and how we move forward as a country past it. And how do we not just get past it, but heal it. And so we are completely changing gears to also a very important topic, which is how we in America can, the best thing we can do to make sure that our elections are secure and they have integrity, that we have integrity in the election cycle. So I guess I'd love to have you start, if you would, Catherine. Just tell our listeners a little bit about founding of True the Vote and what you do.
Sure. We started True the Vote in 2010 as a local project that was aimed at just getting people involved in working in the polls because there was a need for poll watchers. But what we soon learned was that need was far more extensive than we had anticipated, not just because there's a shortage of volunteers, but because there are problems from top to bottom in our electoral process that make it vulnerable and easy to manipulate for those that would try to do so. And so we started an effort to really focus on training and research and support of citizens so that they know how they can, in their own local elections, play a role, from making sure the voter rolls are accurate to making sure that the polling places are well-staffed and, in the end, making sure that they're upholding free and fair elections for everyone.
I love that. That is that's a very, very big bite you. That's a big bite you took, because it seems like it's endless concerns we have in America on that subject. So in this 2016 election cycle, I mean, I know that in 2012 there are many, many people who felt like they were shocked by the results and kind of got into questioning, were the elections fair? And so, and do we really get the answer that did the outcome match how the voters really voted? But
right.
So in 2016, what do you see as the major challenges to the potential, to keeping elections fair, this election fair?
Well, I mean, it's frankly, it's not going to be much different than it was in 2012, and in fact, it'll be, if anything, worse than it was then, because there have been a number of our states that have gone to all mail-in ballots over the years in between, and that is, mail-in is just a magnet for voter fraud. The biggest problem that we have with respect to election integrity is just that, frankly, it's not given the priority that it should be when you consider the significance of its outcomes. Everything from voter rolls being unchecked going into the election and bloated with millions of names that shouldn't be on the rolls, all the way through to problems with the process, including the processing of votes through electronic voting machines. And blanketed over all of that is the knowledge that America has the lowest voter turnout of any country in the industrialized world. And so if you are looking to cheat an election, you can quickly connect the dots and figure out where, when, and how to make those numbers work in your favor. I often say you don't need a whole lot of fraud. You just need a little fraud in the right places, and you may well have won yourself an election.
Wow. I did know America has an astonishingly low voter turnout, but I never connected that dot, that it just fewer numbers, so a small number could really cause an election to flip, to be fraudulent. So I know that you guys at True the Vote, we're speaking this evening with Catherine Engelbrecht, founder of True the Vote. So what can you do, your organization do, or the volunteers do, who are with you to try to challenge? I mean, I tell you, the part that gets me the most concerned is electronic voter fraud, manipulation of the data in the voting machines. Do you have any projects you've undertaken to try to address that?
Well, that in and of itself is one of the more challenging pieces, and the reason is because the country moved to electronic equipment in the belief that it would be more secure. But, you know, in the age of anonymous, in the age where it seems like every time you turn around, some massive and hyper-secure database has been hacked yet again, it doesn't require much wonderment to imagine how you could kick the wires out of some of the equipment that runs up at those polling places that volunteers have put together, mind you, and jimmy the numbers. So how do you affect that particular piece? Actually, can't wait until election day. It has to happen before, when you are part of efforts to take a close look at the kind of equipment that your state uses, to be there when they're calibrated, to be there before and after the polls close to make sure the numbers match. There's a number of steps, all things that we try to bring awareness to inside of our organization. But none of it is easy. This is not an easy task to take on. But we're the only pro-liberty national group doing it, so we feel like we have to keep it up.
Hi, Catherine. It's Dorinda Randall. You came to Golden Corridor and spoke one time. I don't know if you remember out in Plano, but I was calling. Wanting to talk to you about the corrupted cards that I've heard Laura Presley talk about when it comes to the voting machines, and just wondering, what do you think is the most safe and effective way for voting at this time?
Well, truth be told, the most effective way I ever saw an election conducted was, believe it or not, hold on to your hats, in Mexico City. I and a small contingent of True the Vote traveled to Mexico because we had just grown weary of being told or hearing that the Mexican-American population is against voter ID because it's somehow disenfranchises them. Well, every Latin American country has voter identification, photo voter identification. And so I was trying to sort of make the pieces fit, and ended up going to Mexico to understand how their election process works. And, you know, make no mistake, they have other problems that fortunately our country isn't faced with at the level that they have to deal with on a regular basis right now. But actual process is a thing of beauty. They, again, believe it or not, vote with paper ballots. The way that it works, though, is simplified to a place that is so technologically sophisticated yet so easy to understand and work with. So if you think about the securities that are built into legal tender here in our states, imagine a paper ballot that is serialized and has the same kinds of embedded codings and holograms and everything that our dollar bill has inside of a paper ballot. And then couple that with a country that is committed to training millions of poll watchers every year and making sure that all the polling places are filled. You may have heard that in 2012, where there were more votes than registered voters in a county for a given candidate, or counties that had 0 votes for Romney and only votes for Obama. In those instances in Mexico, that would have automatically triggered a recount. I mean, I could spend the rest of the program talking about some of the fundamental differences, but it requires an active and engaged electorate to finally get to a place where they say, enough is enough. We don't trust the outcome, and something has to be done. And that's what happened in that country, and the result of it was an improved process. But we're not quite there yet.
You know, we only have about 1 minute left in this segment, and I do want to ask if you can hold on through the break for just a couple more minutes. Can you do that?
Sure, of course.
Okay, so we're less than a minute here, but I do want to ask you, do you find cooperation from the state legislators as you work around the country or in Washington? Do you have it? I guess I'll just pose the question. You can answer after the break. But are there particular items you're trying to get changed in state legislatures in the way? Are you pushing? I'll ask you. Are you pushing agenda items now in state legislatures or in Congress to impact the fall elections, or is it kind of too late for that?
Well, yeah, it's too late for that this fall. In fact, we're only a few days away from the the books being sealed and the lockdown for the general election. So the days are ticking away now. But yes, we absolutely have bigger things ahead, and I'm be glad to talk with you about them.
Great. I'm so happy to hear that. We're speaking with Catherine Engelbrecht, founder of True the Vote. And this is my leading ladies, Senator Dorinda Randall, Chris Davis. This is Debbie Georgatos, and America Can We Talk, where we talk truth about America. And we're going to come back and talk a little more with Catherine Engelbrecht about truth in our voting process. Don't go away. And welcome back to America Can We Talk. We are speaking this evening with Catherine Engelbrecht, the founder of True the Vote. And I should tell our listeners, too, Catherine's organization is mostly made up of volunteers, maybe all volunteers. Is that right?
All but about 3 of us are volunteers, yes.
Yeah, that is an amazing thing. We talk a lot about the greatness on this show, a lot about the greatness and the goodness of America, and people, especially, being involved in politics. I've been a poll watcher, an election judge, election clerk, and all those things, and it's just so, the entire process is made up of volunteers, and I'm thrilled to hear you can do the same thing with your organization, and it really just speaks to people valuing. I hear like water in the background. People valuing your election, the election process. So, Catherine, you said you had, before the break I was asking you have occasionally, your organization, True the Vote, has pushed some pieces of legislation or urged legislation. What kinds of things do you work on?
Well, right now, I think there are 3 things that we're focusing on. 1, at the federal level, 2, at the state, just broadly. There are certainly things state by state, but broadly, first, I'll take the one at the federal level. Federally, there is a very troubling act afoot that is the second priority of the platform that Hillary Clinton's put out, called the Voting Rights Act Amendment. The Voting Rights Act was first drawn up in the early 60s, and it is the piece that gave the Department of Justice rights to descend into any state election process and continue on with this sort of ongoing battle of voter suppression, voter intimidation, and use it for their political advantage. We've seen it weaponized under this current administration. Well, again, time is short, but the Supreme Court overthrew elements of it that really kept the good parts of it and equalized out the bad parts of it and brought it up to date. So it was a great thing that the Supreme Court decided on. Namely, it got the Department of Justice out. And now the Amendment Act is positioned to put hooks via this act into every state, so the Department of Justice can, at its own discretion, take over state elections. And I kid you not when I say the next thing you won't believe, but they propose to separate voters by the color of their skin.
No.
Yes, it is absolutely the case, and decide according by vote weight which American counts for a greater weighted value of a vote. So the principle of one man, one vote is perilously close to extinction. That's the kind of stuff that's being talked about at the federal level. At the state level, the biggest problems I think that we really see, there are many, but the 30,000 foot, I would say the push towards automatic voter registration and online voting, we can't let ourselves be confused with the fact that those are very convenient concepts, but digitizing a broken process is still a broken process. It's just faster. So those are the kinds of things at the state level that we're keeping an eye on.
Okay, we're speaking with Catherine Engelbrecht, who just said something in the last 5 minutes that the 3 of us who are complete political wonks and read everything imaginable, all been staring at each other with our mouths open. Okay, had not heard this about Hillary Clinton and the agenda apparently to do a major amendment to the Voting Rights Act. Even the first part that you mentioned, this amendment, where it would actually put the federal government in charge of elections in the various states. Okay, go ahead.
Right. So, again, like all good legislation, it's not simple to describe. So I'm giving you the high points, but down in the weeds, essentially, if you think about the states that as with only one exception, only New Hampshire being the only exception, every other state that's enacted photo voter identification or voter ID generally has been sued quickly by the Department of Justice. Every state that has photo voter identification in place would immediately, under the covenant of this new amendment, would immediately be put under the aegis of the Department of Justice.
Oh, so it's designed for any state that wants to have voter ID, then the DOJ takes over their voter process. Oh my gosh, Catherine.
Well, they're just the top of the list. Everybody is on the target. Those are just the bullseye right out of the gate states.
Okay.
It is incredibly disturbing.
We're flabbergasted. So where is it? Can someone listening to the show, or even the three of us here, tell us where to go read about this? Do you have this written up on your website on True the Vote? Or
we do. I would like to say that you could search a Voting Rights Amendment Act, or Voting Rights Act Amendment. However, what I will do at the conclusion of my interview is I will shoot you over the latest version of the bill and what we've written to this point on it, so that you can post it wherever you'd like to. And maybe that'd be a quicker way for your listeners to grab information. It really is outrageous. So far, it has not passed, but given the perfect storm that faces us in November, and the priority that this has been given by the Clinton camp, we now have more to worry about than ever before.
I'm simply flabbergasted. I can't wait to get your material. In fact, after we hang up, when we're done, and before you hang up, if you can talk to Neil, and he can let you know where you should send that information. I'm blown away. But Chris Davis has a question here. She's been. Do you have something?
Hey there. I am so glad to read that your True the Vote is a nonpartisan organization. But, I worked at Dallas County about 4 years ago, and when the Democrats took over the county courthouse, they took over the elections department too. And one thing I noticed was their main emphasis was on voter registration, not on voter security or voter integrity. But and they were going into the high schools. They were using, county money to print up T-shirts to send people, into all the high schools to vote. And I love that you are both sides should want fair elections. That's everybody give it your best shot, and may the best person fairly win. But I just think people need to know that you're a nonpartisan organization, and that
absolutely. Absolutely, nonpartisan. We make no mistake. We need more than one party in this country. We need that debate. The challenge that we face right now is that what used to be Republican and Democrat, and what used to divide us, while those issues raged in their day, we always had this common core to come back to. Even now, common core is, of course, not the right thing to say. But, we had common principles where we believed in the American dream. We believed that America was truly an exceptional country. And that's in many ways, that's no longer true. We don't have ties that bind anymore. And that's what makes this political climate so dangerous. I'll be the first to tell you that if you are an eligible voter, then by all means, any way we can encourage or inform you in participating, in becoming registered, then that's great. But Chris, to your point, there has to be equal weight on making sure that the voter rolls themselves are accurate. So to just bloat them without ever maintaining them is a recipe for disaster. So there's like everything, there must be checks and balances, but for many reasons, the conservative movement has sort of taken their eyes off of this focus and looked onto other things, and that's all fine and well, but everything that we debate, everything that makes up our politics presupposes a free and fair election, and when that is gone, it's banana republic time.
That's to their peril if they're elected conservatives.
It is, right. And you have to say, Catherine, the problem is there are so many, many pressing issues, and I think myself, the things I tend to focus on, I know that free and fair elections mean everything. If we don't have those, then we don't really have the republic that we thought we had in America. But it's a wonderful reminder. Well, we're pretty much out of time here. I want to ask you, first of all, my friend is texting me, telling me I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. So would you please say your name correctly? I'm sorry if I have been.
Believe me, I have been called worse. It's Catherine Engelbrecht, so you sort of can throw that F on the end there.
Okay, thank you very much. I shall not do that again. My last name is Georgatos. This is Debbie Georgatos, and America Can We Talk. We're going to thank you, Catherine, so much for calling in and encourage our listeners to go to your website, which is, can you quick say the name of your website?
Sure, truethevote.org.
Okay, truethevote.org. Catherine, thank you so much for calling in, and hang on for Neil. He's going to give you an email address to send that information, which we are going to share on our Facebook page. And for our happy listeners, I want to just ask you, we have just a couple seconds until our break, so I'll ask you a quiz question over there. You get ladies paying attention. We got a quiz here. Okay, so Rasmussen did a poll that asked, what % of Americans think the FBI should have indicted Hillary Clinton? What do you think?
99%.
No, that's just your household. No, what do you think?
64%.
Very close. Yeah, 54% said she should have been indicted.
Wow.
54. That's pretty good.
She cheated.
Okay, after the break, we're going to talk about Hillary, James Comey, the FBI, and what in the world is happening to the rule of law. Don't go back. Don't go away. Come right back.
The song of freedom is crying.
660 AM, The Answer.
Can you hear us now?
The National Center for Policy Analysis brings together the best and brightest minds to tackle the country's most difficult public policy problems in healthcare, taxes, retirement, education, energy, and now national security. The NCPA works to develop and promote private, free market alternatives to government regulation and control, solving problems by relying on the strength of competition and the private sector. As America's think tank, the NCPA wants to make sure you have access to simple, clear solutions to the issues that matter to you. Come get to know the NCPA at one of their events and join the conversation by following them on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. To get policy solutions delivered straight to your inbox, sign up for the NCPA free email newsletter or subscribe to one of their policy blogs. To get involved with America's think tank, go online today to ncpa.org. The NCPA would love your support, and you'll love being part of the solutions to America's challenges. So go to ncpa.org. That's ncpa.org. America faces unprecedented threats to our national security. The Center for Security Policy, based in Washington, D.C., is a national leader focused on the organization, management, and direction of public policy coalitions to promote U.S. national security. The center is a special forces in the war of ideas, dedicated to identifying opportunities and challenges likely to affect American security, and acting promptly to ensure that they are the subject of focused national examination and effective action. The center enlists support from executive branch officials, key legislators, and other public policy organizations, and brings these teams together to develop and shape policies that will keep America safe. Check out centerforsecuritypolicy.org for the latest news and developments, brought to you by America's leading security experts. Becoming and remaining informed is one of the best ways every citizen can be a part of the mission to keep America safe. That's centerforsecuritypolicy.org. America faces unprecedented threats to our national security. The Center for Security Policy, based in Washington, D.C., is a national leader focused on the organization, management, and direction of public policy coalitions to promote U.S. national security. The center is a special forces in the war of ideas, dedicated to identifying opportunities and challenges likely to affect American security, and acting promptly to ensure that they are the subject of focused national examination and effective action. The center enlists support from executive branch officials, key legislators, and other public policy organizations, and brings these teams together to develop and shape policies that will keep America safe. Check out centerforsecuritypolicy.org for the latest news and developments, brought to you by America's leading security experts. Becoming and remaining informed is one of the best ways every citizen can be a part of the mission to keep America safe. That's centerforsecuritypolicy.org.
We are visiting our friend Chef Tom Fleming at Crossroads Diner. What do you have cooking today, Tom?
Let me ask you a question. Where you been getting your fried yardbird on lately? I know what you're thinking. Yeah, it's fried chicken. Well, at the diner, we do it a little bit different. Hand-pounded, hand-breaded, fried to order, and it comes with the best smooth, warm, creamy brie cheese. And then we top it with, oh my God, I can't even believe this, a tomato caper relish that is just out of this world. So if you've been eating fried yardbird somewhere else, come by the Crossroads Diner, because my yardbird's the best.
fresh ingredients sure to please any sophisticated palate and taste at affordable diner prices in a casual environment. Crossroads Diner. Come eat with them at their new location, now at the corner of Preston and Campbell in the Kroger Shopping Center. Open for breakfast and lunch, Tuesday through Sunday, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Or visit them on the web at crossroads-diner.com. Home-style goodness meets traditional diner. Great recipes, fresh ingredients, comfortable environment, and genuine hospitality are the heart and soul of Crossroads Diner. They'll be waiting for you.
Saying I don't know is no longer acceptable. This is 660 AM, The Answer.
Can you hear us now?
And welcome back to the final segment. This is, I say quite often, this is the shortest 2 hours of my week. Every week, I'm always flabbergasted when we get this point in the show. There's only one segment left, and we have so much more to talk about. I do want to take a moment to thank the sponsor for our show, which I'm so happy to do every week. Our show is sponsored by GC Works, which is a Dallas-based company that performs research in advanced technology and delivers innovative approaches to the oil and gas industry. Many thanks to GC Works. I so appreciate them. So I can sit here and talk about politics every week, which just keeps me awake at night. This show is like such a release. I also wanted to mention next week we have some kind of interesting guests coming on, and I want to mention them tonight. There is an international economics forum that it's the world tour of for economic freedom, as put on by some of the leading economists in the world, free market economists in the world. One is Dr. Barbara Kolm, who's the head of the Hayek Institute in Austria, and the other is Prince Michael von Liechtenstein of the country of Liechtenstein. He actually is a prince, and they will both be here next week. They're on that tour talking about economic freedom around the world and the trends away and how countries are doing when they embrace economic freedom and when they don't. So there'll be a really exceptional show. And then we also have Kathleen Hartnett-White coming on, who never fails to amaze us with the knowledge she has about how the green energy people are really actually making on a path to make life miserable for America, and they're working hard at it. And so you got to keep on standing up for the free use of fossil fuels and other energy. So great show next week. In this segment, this last little time we have, I want to hit on just, it was amazing how the news cycle went this week. It was the hugest news that the FBI, after a year's investigation, and came out essentially and said all sorts of terrible things about Hillary Clinton and how she was bad and reckless and careless. But we see no reason to prosecute her. And so that was going to be the big theme of the show until we had, of course, the horrible incident in Dallas, involving our Dallas police officer. So I want to play a quick clip from Hillary on clip 9, saying what she didn't do versus reality.
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified materials.
I never sent or received any classified material. They are retroactively classifying it.
From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received.
So that second voice you were hearing was the FBI Director James Comey, who made a relatively unusual statement to the press. He actually went through the entire, he summarized very well in great detail what the department did to investigate this email scandal of Hillary Clinton, which, in case you don't know, but I'm sure you do, involves Hillary Clinton setting up a private email server in her home, contrary to clear State Department policy, and transmitting, as you now heard, even though she lied about it, transmitting secret, including top secret information on this unsecured server. And we're going to talk about in a moment many of the findings James Comey came to. But this is a woman who wants to be your president, and she can't tell the truth to save her life. I thought we'd be talking about this for an hour in this show. I don't know if you guys had any reaction to add to that. Yeah.
That in my opinion, Hillary Clinton is an unindicted felon. And I'm wondering if James, did you hear that?
No, you got to say it again.
All right. In my opinion, Hillary Clinton is an unindicted felon. And I'm wondering if James Comey and John Roberts went out and had a drink after his press conference.
Yeah. It's an astonishing thing, because I thought we were actually on vacation. We took a week away with the kids, our young adult kids. And when they announced there was going to be a press conference, we actually took a break from lounging and talking and turned the television on to listen. And as I listened to James Comey going on and on, we thought, wow, he's actually going to recommend an indictment. When he was done vilifying her, raking her over the coals, pointing out how astoundingly irresponsible she was, the conclusion was like disconnected from the facts.
Well, and I think he did a great job for us. I mean, he gave us everything bullet point formatted, saying what was going on. And then at the end, he had to say, but she's Hillary Clinton, so...
That's about what he said. Now, come on here. Because he even said, not only would she not be indicted, but he also said that... Now, this is not to say that someone else who didn't do did the same thing wouldn't be indicted. Okay, so this is the Hillary Clinton exception to all rules. And that is actually kind of what I want to get around to in this final little tiny segment we have left, which is, Hillary has a long history. We have 6 minutes and we have 95 things to say. But Hillary has a long history of, not just engaging in wrongdoing, but kind of in control of the entire apparatus in Washington, so nothing happens to her. And those of you who are over the age of, 40, I'll say, would have heard of these things. Whitewater. You guys remember Whitewater?
Yeah.
Travelgate, Troopergate, the FBI Files Gate. That one always bugged me. The FBI Files, just as one example, because even when they pointed out, no, someone took these from the FBI and how'd they get here? There was, number one, no ever acknowledgement of what happened. But more importantly, there was she never was held responsible. She never answered the questions. And the last that was reported, they never returned the files. These are I'll tell you my new title for Hillary. I want to call her Hillary Sniper Fire Clinton, because that's one of the biggest lies that was just completely ridiculous. She claimed she landed in Bosnia under sniper fire when she was first lady. It was just complete fabrication. But the real thing is, she's the tyrant in waiting. Mm-hmm. She's just waiting. She's now been told by Comey, don't worry, everything you did, we're just going to let it go. So I don't want, there's a long list and we would run out of time in the show, but the law firm records, our Bimbo Eruption Squad, the White House, on and on, Chinagate, Pardongate. But what I want to tell you guys about, and just it's interesting where we stand in America and the young people not knowing who she is. So there was this person who went to a group called Campus Reform, and they went to they hosted college students, and they listed a series of things and asked them, which of the candidates do you think did this, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton? And so they would read this list of things. The candidate wore a $12,000 suit while giving a speech on income inequality. The candidate accepted millions of dollars from the kings of Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and Oman. This candidate said they carry hot sauce with them everywhere they go to pander to black voters. This candidate made a joke about colored people time. This candidate suggested a 12-year-old rape victim made up accusations because the child enjoyed fantasizing about older men. So when they read all those things, these college kids who think they're just they all think Donald Trump has to be Donald Trump. They're all Hillary Clinton.
Wow.
Yeah, and the college kids kind of said, you know what? I mean, the point of doing this, I hope, is more than just to dazzle them, but to make them think, do I really know this person, this candidate?
But does she get to say, hey, I evolved since then.
Yeah.
So I'm totally a different person now. And would the young kids just go, oh, she does have a D after her name, and maybe she did evolve. She's really cool. She's a Democrat. And Obama's with her. So
she's too big to fail.
She is too big to fail. She's Teflon.
That is the sadness of it. I will say, I think it's our job on the show. We said it actually last year on the show. The real job of the show forever is always going to be to tell truth about America, to inspire people to embrace the reasons America is exceptional and great and wonderful and talk about them. But in this election cycle, it is to make sure people know what they're going to get with Hillary. She is like the tyrant in waiting. She's never been accountable for her conduct. She never has to pay a price for anything she's done wrong. She continues squelching women, embarrassing and crushing women who dare to speak up about her husband's amorous advances toward other women. She just is never accountable, and it's like being a king, a queen.
Right. It is, and that's where it never ceases to amaze you. I really didn't think that anything was going to happen until after the election. I was very surprised with Comey and what he did. But again, like I said, I think he did us a huge favor because he gave us every bullet point and showed us.
Well, and as much as I have felt like I would have to hold my nose and vote for Trump, Trump's one who will use that information.
That's true.
On crooked Hillary.
That is true. It is a funny thing. I think all our listeners know Trump was not my first choice by a long shot. I mean, I was really very, very not excited about him. But assuming the Republicans go forward in the GOP convention starting a week from tomorrow and actually give him the nomination, which is not entirely sure, but assuming they do that, no matter how much you dislike his rhetoric or his incomprehensible way of speaking, his incomprehensible policies, incomprehensible, he's not Hillary. And I've gotten around to where, given how bad she is, that's good enough for me.
Well, and I hope because of how much the Bernie Sanders kids are just freaked out and mad that she's the nominee, I think that they may stay home. And if they stay home, then maybe we can do this.
That would be great. And, one other thing to say to our listeners, we're about out of time, about a minute left here, but, so much in our political thinking is geared toward November 8th. That's Election Day. We're going to have an election and things are going to be, we're finally going to hopefully get Obama out of there and get Trump in, or Ted Cruz if he gets the nomination, but okay, Trump. But that is the beginning of solving our problems. So much that has happened under Obama in the last 8 years, we're just starting to understand the consequence to America, the divisions created, the challenges. So got a long way to go. Good thing we are going to be in this radio for a long, long time. This is Debbie Georgatos on America Can We Talk with This Week with Chris Davis and Dorinda Randall. I want to thank so much our guest, Catherine Engelbrecht, who has joined us to talk about True the Vote. And again, I want to express our deepest sympathy to all the families involved in the police shooting in Dallas this week. We offer our love and support and prayers. And I do think love is part of the answer and truth. Come back every week to America Can We Talk.